Hello and welcome to the Manifestor Only podcast. Today, I have my birthday buddy Dave with me, a 5'2" emotional manifestor. Hello, Dave.
Hi. I think you just named the podcast, didn't you?
I think that might end up being the name. That's kind of what flows off my tongue every time I've done this, but yeah, we'll see.
Otherwise, it's just a description.
Yes, yes, it is. And so,
So,
for people who don't know who you are, how about you introduce yourself in the most natural way that feels good for you?
okay. I'm a guy who lives in Austin, Texas, and I'm really into human design, and I sort of public about that. So I people know people who are also really into human design. Some of them know who I am from Instagram and Facebook, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. And you got into human
People
design.
just know who I am. Some few handful of people. Like, oh yeah, Dave. Let's have him on our podcast. Okay.
Yeah. We like to talk to you. You have a lot of interesting things to say.
Awesome. Yeah, like, here it comes. I'm about to bust it out.
I'm really interested in talking to you about creativity because I think that's a lot of the reason people are drawn to your Instagram or your Facebook is the fact that when we were talking earlier, you said you're not a teacher, you don't teach human design, but you do share about human design through short reels that you've created in some creative capacity. Would you
Right.
agree?
Yeah. It's not when I say I don't teach, it's just that I don't have some sort of I haven't trained myself to talk in a certain way. Like I don't have a prepared answers. I don't have key, keynotes memorized in any like accessible way. I am right minded and I can dig stuff up, but I don't. If you just wanted me to like get up in front of people and explain what human design is, like I would have to. It would be like making it up for the first time, like trying to explain something I'd never tried to explain before, even though I have done it a bunch of times. For some reason I just can't train myself to talk about it in a consistent way. So it's easier for me to, maybe this is part of the cross of informing, to just like to present the information in some sort of curated, thought out, or manifested without thinking about it sometimes. But it's like I've decided, okay, like I think this is a good way to represent this, and now I'm going to put it on the internet to share it with the collective. So does that answer your question? What was the question?
I don't know, but it doesn't matter. We're both right-minded.
Right?
It's like there's no strategy here. Whatever comes out comes out. But I think that where I started was, you create these reels that are very informative about human design. Like one that comes to mind right now, which is, I mean, I want to say is one of my favorites, but all of them are my favorites because you're just so fucking good at making loops. And so I'll just rewatch them and watch them and watch them and watch them and not know that I've watched it 17 times. But the Gate 13
Good way to
one,
get your view count up, you know?
yes. Yes, it is. But yeah, the Gate 13 one is one of my favorites because it's just so, it's just Ra's voice telling the story of the Gate 13, but the way you've curated it and cut it and found the pictures that go perfectly into these keynotings that he's doing around the Gate 13. And I know you're a 5-2 double projection field. You're also what is called the double-barreled manifestor with the 35-36 and 12-22. Are you in any way able to explain what your creative process looks like when you're creating?
Sure. And it's not like a mystery to me. Um, yeah, I mean, I have to be in the mood to do it, first of all. And and hopefully there's some kind of flow involved. And there's a flow, there's definitely a flow state thing. Um, the process, like, okay, this light is really annoying me. Hold on. Where it's reflecting off my glasses, driving me crazy. Um, yeah, there's kind of a, I've learned there's definitely a manifestory aspect that I've come to embrace to some extent, where there's kind of a this don't overthink it, just keep moving, keep it's gonna just come together. um Wherever my hand stops gliding the arrow over, like that's the place to cut it, because it's just keep moving, like there's definitely some new aspects. I don't know, I feel like I'm rambling. I don't know, I there's definitely a certain, like, buzziness around it, where I'm kind of in the mode, in my creative mode, and definitely is not cool to interrupt me during that state. Um hmm.
First of all, rambling is very much appreciated, and I don't think we actually can do anything else but ramble with our right mind, right brains. Like seriously, it's and for me, I mean, I know the way I experience it myself too. It's like I don't know what I just said, and it's like, fuck, what am I saying? What am I talking about? Hello, this making sense? But it is. And I think, that process, like you said, just like, okay, my hand stopped sliding there. Let's just stop. Don't overthink it. I think that's one of the beauties of the creation mode that a lot of people are in. Like, I'm not that creative. I'm just not. I don't really understand how people can create like you do or other people, like my husband, who's a wedding photographer, and the way he'll just like come home and you know, he's a manifesting generator. So he'll be at work for 17 hours and then he'll have curated this whole story of pictures. And I can look at these pictures and feel like I was at that event, feel like I was at that wedding, and just like I know what has gone on because he's been able to capture it in some way. And so for me, I just think that this whole process of being creative is just so um it's something I'm so drawn to. It's like, what is that like? Well, how does that even exist in the world, So that's why I really wanted to just talk to you or start off with that creative process of yours. Um because it's very special what you put out there. And I think, like you said, being the whole cross of informing, but being able to inform in a 90-second reel or a small YouTube video or something. I think that's not something everybody can master.
Yeah, I don't know, it's like a I think it has a lot to do with knowing what's when to, like, what information needs to be cut out, and what not to do, like what's too much, not to get caught up in the, there's this other side of it, the practical side of it, maybe the 5-2, where it's like have it be as impactful as possible by, like, um by making it practical. You know, it's not just like a little art project. Like it's got to have it is on the other hand like completely, you know, useful.
Mm-hmm.
Um because some people will get caught up in like they'll have this idea and then they're like, oh wait, here's another joke and here's another idea, here's another like, you know, little like skit we could do. Like people will make some, I've seen videos where people are just like keep going and going and it should be like 15 seconds, but they're like, oh wait, when we can do this thing and that thing, and it turns into this big, you know, list of ideas instead of like what actually works. Like you lost me. You spent all this time doing this thing that like could have been awesome, and then you overdid it and now it doesn't land. So it's like there's, I don't know what it is. It's some kind of wisdom, some sort of awareness of like how do you make this actually work mixed with the creativity, you know?
Do you feel like that, you know, you have that, oh God, I forget what it's called, channel of transformation? Is that what it is? I just call it the drive channel, the
Mm-hmm.
5432. Do you feel like that plays a part in that process as well? Or is it just this emotionality, practicality thing?
Yeah, I think it does. Um, I mean, it's part of the business circuit, the marketing circuitry, the something, you know, it has to do with selling something. But I mean, that's sort of the rest of that circuit has more to do with it, but that channel is has the adrenaline for that circuitry. Also, I've heard of it referred to as like a makeover channel. So like it's, I mean, I guess the 2644 would be so more so for like the new and improved aspect of that energy, but um somebody said that and it makes sense to me, like the 5432 is just sort of like reinvention, sort of, I don't know, there's a certain, oh, who said that, but there's a certain pressure to for like a certain kind of tribal creativity.
Yeah, it makes sense. It does. I mean, like you said, it's part of that whole material plane, whatever, you know, circuit that goes up to the
Yeah,
money line. Um, but it is that drive to, you know, a lot of people talk about it as like the drive to climb the corporate ladder or whatever, but the drive to create for the tribe, to create for your people. Um, and as that manifestor energy, you know, creating something new as well. I mean, it makes sense to me at least. I've never heard it been explained like that before though.
I hope I'm not making it up.
And if you are, it still makes sense in my head, so who cares? Oh my gosh. Now, you know, my defined ajna. I'm always certain. It's all good. So when you're creating, is there, you know, because you also are innocent motivated, which is I find fascinating because that's my transference. I'm desire motivation. And I guess I'm wondering, like, is there a process of just doing it for yourself? And this is where it's kind of, you know, this is where I'm like, I love it when we like, of course, everything's happening at once, right? The whole chart's happening at the same time. That's, you know, that's the whole thing here. But when I start like breaking down people's design, it's like, oh, but wait, you have this innocent motivation, which is just like the way I've understood it, and I would love to hear what you feel it is, but like this, I'm just going to do it for myself. I'm not really involved with anybody else. I don't really care about what's going on out there. I'm just in my little, bubble of my own will. But then you have this drive to create, this drive to rise, this drive to, like you said, market, sell. So where does that innocence come into play through your creative process? Do you know?
From the perspective of creativity, uh, I guess it's just there's this certain it's part of that flow state for me that you you don't want to be too focused on an agenda. Like you maybe you know why you're making something and what you hope the impact will be or what you think it might be, but it's like that's kind of you're not really going to know until you put it out there. So innocence just kind of keeps you on track to like if you're not in transference, you kind of just like just doing it for the sake of doing it, I guess. Like not there's a it's the Buddha. So you just kind of it's for me that's the flow state. That's the just doing it with trying to not have an agenda. Trying to not have it. I mean, it sounds silly, but like that's kind of the feeling that there's just a feeling of not really caring, like just doing it. I don't know. This is me guessing. This is me guessing. Like I said, I don't have prepared answers. I don't know what to say. Um, innocence and creativity.
I think you
Let me think
answered it
about it.
pretty well. I mean, it's part of that flow state, it's just part of that full process of just like I want to create this, and so that therefore I'm going to sit down and create this because I'm in the mood, I'm in the flow, I'm feeling, called to doing this.
Hmm.
And so on that note of being called, I find it so interesting. There's so many second lines that are on this podcast. Like I just had a conversation with a 2-5 splenic manifestor. When it comes to like feeling called out and the whole second line being spiritual or having a connection to God or having a connection to something else, does that ring true for you and your process in your life? What does it look like?
I don't know too much about the connection to God thing. I haven't heard that keynote very much. Um,
I might be making that up.
being called, I suppose, is that definitely is helpful. Um, because otherwise, I can just wait forever to do anything. Um, but then again, the 5-2 is supposedly here to call itself out. So I don't know to what extent that's exclusive. I feel like the second line is called out no matter what. And I have 11 second lines, so it's not just my design sun and earth. I mean, I'm mostly second lines. So if I can call myself out and actually get my feet moving and start actually doing something, that's always great. But in those periods where I'm not being productive and I feel like a piece of shit, just sitting around waiting for mutation to come, I sometimes I don't like feeling it's my responsibility to call myself out, you know. And if somebody wants to ask me to do something or see if I'm could, you know, especially like a client or like somebody who wants to work on a music project or some fun thing, it's like that's great. Yeah, call me out.
As a 6'2", with that second line, and for me, I don't have, I'm looking at your chart. I mean, your 35, 36 is consciously activated. I don't have, my only conscious channel is my 43, 23. So my mind is like, you're a mental projector. You should, wait for the invitation. You should wait for people to tell you or talk to you or invite you. And I feel like just that manifestor aspect as well. It's like there needs to be an internal calling that doesn't always have to be from the outside. And I've had a couple of those moments where it's just been like so clear to me, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm going to use my energy, this is what's going to be created into the world right now. But there's still that, I mean, okay, 11 second lines. I I'm I think I have 7 second lines, and then I have equal amount of third and sixth lines. And I think it's 6 of each of those. But that blindness of the second line, not really being able to see your own naturalness, not being able to see your own talents. Do you feel that to be true to you? Is it like surprising if someone is like, "Oh my God, you're so talented. Oh, this is so amazing." Is that just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Or do you know?
I often know, but it's like people think that the projection is that you could you should do that. You know that you should that oh, well that this is it. Like you found your skill. Like my mom does it to me all the time. You know, it's like I'll tell her like, "Oh, I did this today." She'd be like, "Oh, you should make a career out of that." You know? I mean, that's a fifth line projection, but like but still there's like the second line is just like, okay, I was this was fun and I was good at it, but it doesn't mean I'm interested enough in it or like that I'm gonna be that guy. You know, there's skills that are maybe if somebody else wishes they could do it, you know, they've all wanted to do it their whole life, and then you just do it without any effort. But it doesn't mean that you care about it or that you want to do it or that you should do it. Um, but the I feel like the blindness has more to do with it's not realizing that you have these skills. It's like not being aware of yourself. Like you don't see yourself doing it when you're doing it. It's like singing in the car and you think no one can hear you, but like everyone can hear you. It's that kind of that's I think that's where the blindness is. Like just this emperor's new clothes kind of like absent-mindedness of that you're exposed. And I don't know, I feel like I never know what I'm talking about. I feel like I do not know what I'm saying right now. I don't I
It makes sense to me, so it's all good, Dave.
whatever.
It's all good. Um, yeah, of course, yeah, I agree that blindness of just like, like you said, singing in the car and not thinking about that people are watching. But I've noticed, at least in my process, there's just been a lot of denial around what I'm naturally good at. And so when someone does call me out, or someone is like, "Oh my God, that's so amazing," or my husband, he's a 1-3 profile, and the way he'll come to me, and he'll be like, "Can you come and do that thing where you don't know what you're doing, but you fix it for me?"
Mm.
And it's just like, okay, what is it you need help with? And then it's some computer thing, and I just like go in and use 5 minutes, and then he's channel a struggle. Like if I hadn't asked for help, then I wouldn't be able to, move on with his life, and he'd be stuck forever and ever and ever. Um, so yeah, I think it's a cute way of explaining it. It's just like I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm able to figure something out in that way. But I don't know what I did to do that thing. Um, and so there's like that certain aspect of I do need that other person to see that in me. But like you also said with your mom, I mean, I've
Oh.
had that happen too, where it's like, oh, but you're great at this, and so you should do this into a business. You should make that into a business. And it's like, but I'm just having fun with this thing. I don't
Or
want
not.
to.
Maybe you're not having fun with it. Maybe you hate it. You know, it's beside the point, mom.
Exactly. It's like, it's just, well, yeah. I mean, it's just like, it's something you do, but it doesn't mean that it needs to be your full life. And I
You
think
might have really good grammar, but it doesn't mean you should spend every day editing books.
that's a perfect
Like,
analogy.
you know, it's like I don't want to do that.
Yep.
I would prefer not to,
Yep.
or some other grammar based sentence that could sort of work as a punchline to this joke. But I don't know. How many first lines do you have?
One. Yep. It's my 19.1 in my design Venus. So it's like I'll investigate the needs of my people. But
Hmm.
I won't I'm just not an investigator. How about you?
3. Yeah, I'm not at all. I'm not good at it, at that part of life, unless I'm extremely interested in something. But yeah.
But I think, and that's an important aspect of like, well, if you're extremely into something, and you get that pulse of energy, it's like, oh, this is where I want to do, this is where I want to go. I'm in the flow, I'm in the mood. Then it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go deep into that thing. But I'm not building a foundation like I watch my husband do. It's just it's a completely different process, and there's not a lot of fear of inadequacy or all that shit going on. It's just this desperate need of like, I'm the surge is on. Let's just fucking go. I'm gonna go into this thing. Like when I
For
was.
me, I want it to be natural. Like I'll try to do a little bit of research to get the foundation, but then I'll just be like scanning through something and be like, okay, let's just do it and see if I just have a natural talent for this. Like why can't I just do this like so many other things that I can just do? And then I'll have to just force myself through some sort of instructional video or something where I'm like, okay, fine, I'll pay attention to the details of this stupid thing and learn it. I hate it. I hate that.
Yes, it's like when I'm gonna post something and I go to Canva to find some fucking pretty little, square to put my words on. I absolutely hate that process. And this is where I'm like, I wish I was creative. I wish I had outer vision or creative channels in that manner, or something. Cause I'm like, my not self wants to be that, it's like, I really want to be creative. I really want to be that person that can go to Canva and create something so beautiful. But then it's like, I open canva.com and I can just feel a dread in my whole entire body of just like, oh, now I have to try to make something look nice. It's like, that's not my natural talents at all.
So that's kind of what I'm talking about with the, drag your finger across the trackpad until the arrow stops on some fucking thing, and that's it. That's the one. Just keep moving. You know, that's it. It's like picking a font. I hate picking fonts. And as soon as one of them looks sort of okay, I'm like, that's it. That's the one.
Done.
Otherwise, I never get it done. Yeah, manifest.
Hmm.
Just fucking manifest it.
On that topic, you know, I think a lot of people who come to human design and they're like, "Oh, I'm a manifestor." And then they go straight to the whole new age, you know, I'm going to make a vision board, I'm going to think about it every single day and therefore it's going to become my reality. How, you know, what is your experience of manifesting? How does that look in your life? Because I'm going to assume you don't have a vision board and think about things every day and so that's why they
No, it's the total opposite of that. It's, I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, but I don't, yeah, manifestation is like, I never think about it. I never, it's not, it's, there's no intention behind it. It's, if it's like, what are my greatest dreams and desires? Like, that's how I know I'm not, that's not the process. It's just like, it's going to come through. It just will. I can be aware of what I want and like, that informs my decisions to some extent, but in the end, it's just, I'm emotional and shit comes out of me no matter what. So, but I mean, there are certain things little things that are just sort of almost even just superstitions, you know, like if I'm imagining some shitty scenario out of like just my own bad attitude or pessimism or something, I'll just like tell myself to stop doing that. Like I'm not, I make an effort not to accidentally just manifest shittiness out of my own shittiness,
Mhm.
whether or not that's likely to happen. I don't know the mechanics of that, but I'd still try not to. Or like I'll, like with money, like I have some money just upstairs, just thumbtacked to my wall, just to sort of like have a subconscious like reminder of abundance, just like a feeling of there is money, I have money, I haven't used this $50 bill yet and it's been hanging on the wall for 5 years, like I'm doing okay. But it's sort of like, it's kind of like a magical sort of vision boardy kind of thing, just to have it up there. But that's part of the scenery. It's been there for 5 years. So really my daily operations are to just try to be flowy and strategy and authority and only do things that I feel like doing if I can help it. And then I end up having ideas and making things when it's time to make them and doing things when it's time to do them, hopefully. But this whole idea of the manifestor gets to do whatever they want and they get to be the ones to make it happen. And everyone wants to be a manifestor so they're the only ones that can get what they want in life. And it's like, stop trying to do all that shit. I don't
For
I don't care
real.
about all that.
For real. Stop doing all that shit. Well, yeah, I come from a background of, you know, being in the coaching industry, being a mindfulness instructor. Of course, mindfulness instructor has nothing to do with this whole manifestation thing, but just like being in that environment where a lot of people believed, you know, if you're not getting what you want, you're doing it wrong. And I think that's such an incredibly dangerous place to be. Now that I'm out of it, now that I really can see that, as a manifester, the way I see it, it's like life is here to flow through me. It's not for me to will or wish or envision. Of course, like you said, let's not, what is it called? Self-fulfilling prophecies. We don't have to, mull over something until it actually becomes reality in a way. Because I do believe that can happen where it's like, well, if I'm constantly thinking about losing my house, then okay, maybe one day I'll lose my house. I don't know. I don't know how that works. Like you said, I don't know the mechanics behind that shit, but knowing that what's going to manifest in me through this incarnation, it's like it's not up to me. It really isn't. And I think one of those interesting parts is like, okay, you have an undefined ajna, I have a highly fucking defined ajna, so the mental anxiety is real, but we both have that gate 11 in our designed sun, and both are a second line there. And I'm really, for me, it's been interesting to notice that difference between having an idea, having like a picture of something that could be versus that surge of energy. And I don't like calling it an urge. I just don't, but like a pulse of energy, a surge of energy or whatever, call it what you will. Um, how are you able to differentiate between those two? If you've ever thought about it.
Between the so-called urge and what?
And having all these ideas of what something could be,
Oh,
an idea of whatever.
well, in order to actually do something, you need more than just the idea. You need the people or the things or the time or the materials to do it. So that's just one basic thing. Like it, you can. I had a ZZ Top came on the car yesterday, and I imagined I came up with an arrangement of the song in my head for like a country band with a fiddle and so it's like, oh man, it would be really cool to do a whole band that was country covers of ZZ Top songs. And I had that great idea and I lived it out in my head and it was awesome. And I had an emotional moment like with it and it was very cool. And maybe someday I'll do that band of the 100 bands that I want to start. But that was really just a really good idea. And maybe someone else will do it. That was the 11, like coming up with something, but it's just a fun idea. And I had fun with it. But then there may be some other thing that actually happens that that it isn't conceived in that way. It could just happen. Hanging out with some people, playing some music, something well, this leads to that, and an actual band comes up and it's a different thing. So I have ideas all day long. I mean, literally all day.
Yes. Yes. I think that was a perfect way of explaining it. The CC Top cover band. I'm just imagining that. That would be pretty damn awesome. If
But
it
then,
ever
I mean,
does
I've
happen, let me
also
know.
I've got a Sade cover band in my head. I've got all these different bands.
Yeah.
Um, Lots of them. But the one that I hope to actually do would be, not a cover band.
I can see
But
that. Create your own.
yeah,
Have you always been musical, or is that something like when did that
yeah,
start?
yeah, like the beginning. I think. I mean, I first started like taking piano lessons at 5 years old. I think. But yeah, I was always messing around with all the instruments, and we had the drum set in the house, and like, there was a piano and all the lots of different instruments growing up. But yeah, I was like played piano until I was like 12, and then I was like realized that the guitarists were like the real cool guys. So started doing that too. And
right?
mostly I'm a guitar person. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I mean.
I'm married to a musician, so he's a
So you
drummer,
know.
but
Hmm.
he's played the guitar too.
Of course it does.
Of course, duh. But he's kind of like you too. It's like he can play the bass, he'll play the piano, he'll just like I remember very clearly when we were sitting because we used to have a piano in our old house, but it was mostly just for like because it's a beautiful furniture, but
Hmm.
not because we had tuned it very well because that was so expensive to get someone to come tune it. Um, but we were watching the series Fringe. I don't know if you've ever seen that series, but it's like this sci-fi, whatever. It's very interesting, very cool. If you like X-Files, you will like Fringe. Um, and then the intro song comes on, and then he pauses the TV show, and then he walks over to this untuned piano, and then he just starts chimping, like trying to find somewhere where he can play this. And then, like, within 3 minutes, he's just like playing the intro song to Fringe on our fucking piano. And I'm like, how do you do that? I do not get this. Again, with the creativity on that level, I'm just like, how is this possible? But you guys, I guess musicians just do it. Do you read notes as well, being a person who's played piano?
I don't actively do any sight reading. It's not really part of. I don't need to, but
No.
I'm not good at it. I was never good at reading music, but I understand. Like I could write it down, and just as far as like looking at it and interpreting that into like playing it as I read it, it's not. I don't. That's not something I do. But it's the language of it. Like I understand the theory, so I know the intervals and the way that it works. I can. It's a language. It's that I understand. I'm not very good at writing and reading it.
Got it. I love that. Okay, over to something else because you've talked about a couple of times you've mentioned like when you're in that flow process of creativity and creating something, like just don't fucking get in my way. And so I'm wondering like, do you have a specific moment where you were creating and someone interrupted you? And that I'm assuming anger that would show up and like how does anger feel and what does it look like? Like what is yeah. Do you have a story like that?
Well, sure. I mean, it's not like a great story, but it's just something that happens. And it's usually I'm just annoyed. It just, I don't know. It's like a commercial coming on in the middle of a sentence on a YouTube video. It's just like a rude awakening. And it's just such a violation to be taken out of when you could be changing the world. I'm writing a thing. Can't you tell that I'm doing something in my head right now? I'm trying to rhyme a word with another word. God damn it. What the fuck do you want? That could have been a masterpiece.
Yeah.
You know, how dare you walk through the room? So, but I mean, I feel like people learn more and more not to fuck with me. Cause it's probably pretty apparent that I'm upset about it. But one of my friends who lives here in my house, I just can't explain to him like he doesn't understand that, about like if I just because I'm don't seem to be doing anything doesn't mean I'm not doing anything. And like I don't I'm always doing something and I don't probably don't want to talk to you about yes, yeah, it rained. Obviously it rained. You're asking me did it rain? Yeah, yeah, it rained. Anything else? you know? But in the meantime, it's like he'll come up on me like while I'm doing something, he'll start talking to me before I even know he's walking in my vicinity. So he'll suddenly someone's talking to me and it's just sort of like, what, somebody talk, what, am I supposed to stop doing what I'm doing? Like what, where are you, why are you talking to me? Make yourself know, like, let me see you first, let me hear you, acknowledge me, then start talking to me. Let me be like, hey, what's up, instead of just like, I'm sorry, I thought I was doing something. I guess I'm supposed to pay attention to you. It's better be good.
Yes, and it never is. Oh my
Yes, it
God.
did rain. It did. Good observation.
Oh, I feel you so powerfully right now. It is, my husband, bless his heart, he's also a completely open solar plexus. And so it's like, I'm like, well, I have the 1949 and then the 1222. So it's like that intense, adrenalized fucking emotions on top of it. And there was one day where I woke up and it was just like, doing my morning thing. And I woke up before him, which very seldom happens. And then I got into the zone and I didn't inform because that's just like, I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing and let you know what I'm doing, which I know I need to get better at. But anyway, and then he wakes up and I'm sitting over at my computer and I'm in, with my little bubble and just like doing my thing. And he sees that I'm doing my thing and he's getting better, at really understanding this whole aspect. And then he comes and all he does, which is something I really appreciate normally, he comes and he gives me a kiss on my neck. And my whole body like recoils away from him. And it's just like, oh, what the fuck are you doing? And him, poor, poor guy, he's just like, dude, I'm just trying to give my wife some affection, but
Yeah.
I'm in and so I just finish up what I'm doing because, he already fucked up my whole situation. And so I was not in my zone anymore because and I go into the kitchen and I'm like, sweetheart, I love you. I love you. I love you. I know that you are just trying your best to really respect this whole mechanics shit. Just don't come in my bubble. Just don't. I will come to you when I'm ready, when I'm done, when I'm at ease with whatever I've done. I will show up. I promise. Just
Yep.
don't.
Yep.
It's not
Hear
easy.
that, everybody?
Take notes. But it is, you and I have spoken about this before on one of our lives where it's like I'm not as angry as I used to be because I've kind of turned my life around to the point where, I'm on the roof too. It's like I don't allow people in who can disturb me anymore, you know? And it's so seldom that I'll have these rage attacks at my husband, which, it's like it used to be a monthly thing where I would scream and yell and, get all of my anger out on him, which not always had anything to do with him. But it was just like, okay, I have this job of, like you said too, when people are like, oh, you're so great at this, you should do this. Yeah, I did that all the time. Undefined ego. I love your validation. I'll do this for you. So I would run the restaurant, I would run the coffee shop, I'd have the franchise, all this stuff. And I was so angry constantly. And then I would just come home and I'd take it out over him because I was really good at not taking it out over my employees. But on the flip side, I've really been in the past, I'd say year and a half, like, what is peace? What is it actually? And I'm really curious if you are able to like pinpoint or like explain what peace feels like to you. Because it's been a really interesting observation for me, at least. But yeah.
I think it's a certain kind of comfort. It's just like a good enough level of maintaining like being okay. um yeah, just not being miserable or angry or annoyed. um
So
Being
it's
in
like,
flow is like very, very peaceful. Well, I mean, even if it's like super active and exciting, it can still be peaceful. But yeah, it's just like a certain kind of comfort. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe I can't help but think that my innocence sort of flavors that a little bit. But that's just an idea I just had now, and I don't necessarily want to go into it. But yeah, it's just this kind of ability to be myself. It's a comfort.
mm. Now I like that. I think that's a beautiful way to put it. And yeah, definitely the whole innocence thing probably flavors. I think all of us have our own flavor of it. But what I've really been noticing is, and of course, these are only my observations and this is only my truth. I really appreciate you putting that word comfort on it because that's like my day to day living in peace. That's there's a comfort there. There's a comfortability of just like you said, being able to be myself. It was a perfect word. And then I have this observation of peace after initiation, peace after creating, peace after impacting. I mean, we're always impacting, but just like when I'm desire motivation. That's why I'm like, yeah, I think this kind of flavors the whole thing. Like when I was, I initiated a conference this year. I spent a full year and a half really planning it and just, emotional manifestor, gave myself a shitload of time to go through those ebbs and flows of energy where there was like 3 months at the time where the the speakers were like, is there going to be a conference? Like, is she on? Because I was just done. But then I would come back and it would be like, okay, no, this is where the energy's going. And so when I was done, I went to my hotel room and like the whole fucking thing is over. And first I just had this emotional release of like finally following that internal call, finally following that internal knowing of like, this is what you're supposed to do. It was such a confusing experience really because it was just like it started with like I don't know what this is going to look like. I just know that this is where I want to go, but then okay, so now it's all done. I have this emotional release. And then that feeling of peace when I was done was like there was nothing. We talk about satisfaction, we talk about success, we talk about surprise, and then there's peace and it's like it was void of all of that. There was no satisfaction. Of course not. I'm not here to be satisfied. There was no feeling of success. A lot of people were like, oh my God, you must feel like this is so amazing. You must feel so proud of yourself. You must feel so excited that you did this. And you must feel. And I'm just like, it's nothing. I was just in this, it wasn't me. It was through me. And so I'm really trying to, I mean, again, this was just in April, so it's still something I'm processing and I might not even being able to get my point across here, but it was just this feeling of having initiated using all my energy, creating this thing, and now it's done. And I'm just like, there's nothing. And it still felt good, but there was no pride. There was no, yay, I did it. Or there was just like, so yeah, I don't know.
Hmm. Uh. Well, okay. I can't help but think about the difference between the 1222 and the 3536 because with the experiential wave, which I also have, the crash is in the 35 in the throat, and it's like after the experience. So that, I mean, it involves sort of reflecting or analyzing or juicing the experience, like in your in retrospect, like you with the 35, the crash has to do with sort of like going over it, what happened, and get seeing what you can get out of it. And it's kind of a cathartic experience to just kind of sit in the aftermath of something that's happened and sort of like see what you can, like what fell out of the pinata, like what you can sort of like gather up from it. So it makes sense that that's part of a manifestor process, because it maybe that is what you get instead of satisfaction. Like maybe that is part of the peacefulness process of that. But then in the 1222, without having the 3536, like there's a different kind of peace. It's just sort of like an exhale or something. It's just over. I don't know. What would it be like without that 35? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great distinction though. Truly. I mean, both of those being those manifested channels. And I don't have either 36 or 35. I have nothing in that channel. I'm just that 1222 and my 12 being unconscious. So, yeah, that's a great distinction. I love that. Thank you for pointing that out because it's like I said, it's still something that I'm just allowing that to come to me in the flow of it coming to me. But of course, I'm mulling over like, what was that? I need to understand this. There's like that pressure to figure it out. But it was interesting. Like you said, that it was a beautiful way of explaining it, just that exhale. It was just like, okay, good, done, finished, over. And it was beautiful. I mean, it was surprising in that way because I guess when you've created something and I've had all these people come up to me and be like, oh my god, this impacted my life, and like for weeks, and still to this day, people will send me messages about, oh my god, this was amazing, I'm still seeing the changes, I've and it's just like, but it wasn't me, it's that manifester fucking connected to the cosmos, something's coming through me, but it wasn't me. It was whatever came through me. And it's just, yeah. I'm one day I might have the words to be able to explain it very clearly. But yes.
You hear the term agent of the program
Yes.
sometimes, and it's, I hear that a lot as a negative thing, and people, when generators and projectors talk about it, they're sort of like talk about it as like the agent Smith, the just like facilitator of the program that's like out to get you. But now, from what I've heard, like when I started doing this, is like the manifestors are the agents of the program in the sense that like it comes through us. Like there's no choice, and like we facilitate that somehow, and we're agents of the program, and so it's coming through. This is just the things that are being done, and I'm one of the people who are here to do them, and we all are. But
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's true. Because it is. I mean, and I've I think it's maybe in the past 2 years where I've been really like trying to see like, okay, what does the transit do versus the conditioning field of another person? Like, what is the difference for me? Just that whole, reflectors and manifestors being more moved by the transits than the generators and the projectors and all that stuff. And it's been really interesting to observe, like for example, with this I'm just using the conference because that's the last biggest initiation. I mean, I could have used the example of selling my house, or there's been a couple of big things. I mean, I like to look at these through the big initiations, not to saying that I don't do small initiations every single day, but just like when I gave myself over a year and a half to really create this conference, then it was just like I could see how, suddenly the money line was on and I was out there and I was marketing or the transmitter was on. I was out there and I was marketing and I was creating things and suddenly, perfected form or some other fucking creative channel was on and I was in Canva and actually enjoying it, I mean, just like could see that, yes, this transit thing is actually a part of my process of creation, of initiation. It does move me in some way, but it's started with an emotional clarity of this is what I'm going to create. This is where I'm going to go. So again, something that haven't really been able to put words into, but it's just something that I've been noticing and observing.
And we can't be like so in flow that we have no concept of like where we're going or what we're doing or what our goal is. Like we still have to have some sense of where we are and what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Um so yeah, you're like on this, you're sort of on a path that you're aware of, even though the transits are going to come in and like influence how you get there. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say almost even help me get there in some way. And I mean, again, I don't, I don't know. This might be completely quote unquote incorrect, right? Don't know. Haven't gone that deep into human design studies. I don't know what Ross really says about transits and manifestors and all that fucking shit. But it's just been my observation through this initiation of just like, oh, that happened. And that's not, I'm not a person that looks at the transits every day. I'll be like, oh, that was weird of me to do, or that was interesting that I enjoyed, or that was a funny feeling. And then I'll go and I'll look at the transit and be like, oh, fuck, that's okay. Transmitter was on, or 44 was on. So I was hooked up to my ego, whatever. Yeah, it's interesting. Or like when I did sell my house, and this was actually one of the first times when I really understood the transit affection. I don't know, when was that? What year are we in? 24? This was 22, I think. I sold my house. Yeah, it's about 2 years ago. And we were selling all our shit. And I'm not really, I mean, I got the 26, but it's an undefined ego. And I'm not really comfortable putting a price on something. I'm really okay with selling other things, but like me putting a price on something, that's just like, but I was like so like proud of myself how I like stood my ground of being like, that's what it costs. If you want it, that this is what it costs, and not like giving in to people's bargaining and all that shit too much. And then I was like, dude, this was fucking insane. How did I do that? And then I look and then, oh, the money line was on and transmitter, I believe, or something, or that I was hooked up to like that little, triangle there of material way. And I was just like, fuck, okay. Did that come in and like help me have that ego boost of being able to stand my ground? I don't know.
Probably. And that's anyone who's excited about proving that human design is real would agree that that is exactly what happened.
Yes, exactly. It's like, what do you want to believe or not?
Indeed. Well, I like when I've got the 34 and an undefined sacral. So when the 20 comes up and the transits, I often there's sometimes I've noticed that I'd be like, is the moon in 20 right now? Because I just can't stop doing chores, and I'd be like, lo and behold, I'm just busy.
Yep.
Like and it's fun to notice stuff like that. The practicality of it, not so sure, but it's definitely interesting.
Agreed. I mean, I would never, and anybody listening, it's like, no, do not. I do not agree with running your life like the transits will be there and there and there. So I'm going to plan to do this and X, Y, and Z because the transit will be. Don't do that, please. Yeah.
I'll do it like based on lines like like today's a fifth line day, and one of my a client, like a friend of mine who I'm doing some actual paid work for because she got a grant and she asked me to do some reels for this music project that we actually do together sometimes. And so, anyways, I've been working on some stuff and sent her a video yesterday that was, I thought it was done, but then after I watched it a few times, I thought it wasn't done. So I said, I'm going to finish it. And so today she's like, hey, I was going to post that today, but I'll wait till tomorrow because you said so. And I was like, actually, because I was thinking tomorrow's a six line day. Nobody's going to give a shit. Nobody's going to, everyone's sort of just aloof. Like people, six line days aren't really good for posting content.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so I was like, you know what? It's good enough. Just post it today. Like, I think today's a better day to post that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't find it actually practical. I do.
Mhm.
I just, I wouldn't, I don't want to, I don't want to plan my life too much based on it. It's not, then it becomes some sort of puzzle that you're always like, is too conscious. There's too much consciousness. It's too involved in the mental. You just don't want to get all mental about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the moment one is stopping your flow of nature because, well, it's a third line day, so I better just stop this, flow that I'm feeling because if
Right.
I go out, then I'm gonna trial and error and I'm gonna fuck it up. I mean, that would be like, don't do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. But it is
Yeah.
interesting with the lines.
The feelings are always, I don't know, the awareness, actual feelings and emotions and sensations and authorities. That's where it's at, y'all.
Y'all. I mean, you are in Texas.
I am in Texas. I'm very much in the very middle of Texas.
I always forget that Austin is a part of Texas because it's just such a different part of Texas, I guess. Not that I've been so many different places in Texas, but the few places in Texas I've been, Austin just doesn't feel like Texas, I guess, for me.
It's definitely got a couple of unique things about it.
Indeed, I would agree. I miss Austin. Someday I'll be back, Dave.
It will blow your mind how different it is now.
Really? Is it good different?
Yeah, I mean, it just visual. Like, there's so many more buildings.
Oh, okay.
There's just lots of buildings and restaurants and things
I
and
like the
stores and condominiums. But yeah, lots of buildings, lot of buildings and things like that.
As long as, oh God, what is that place? I think it was called the Peach Tortilla. It was a restaurant. I might be butchering the name, but it was
That's it.
yeah. I went there and I had a jalapeno margarita and it was fucking amazing. So I'm like, just exist when I come back, please. Thank you.
I'm not sure if that place is still there, actually.
No, that's so sad.
I mean, I haven't heard anyone mention it lately. They used to do a lot of, like, I used to do a lot of events as a vendor, and they would be one of the other vendors quite often.
Oh,
But I don't do that anymore, so I'm less aware of them. End of story.
I know how you feel. Used to be in the restaurant industry. Now I'm like, I don't know who's in, who's out, and what's going on. I have no idea.
Lots of old school places have shut down here too.
That sucks.
Places that it does, but also like keep up with the times. Like a vegetarian restaurant that like opened in the 70s. They're still doing brown rice and pinto beans. Like,
Maybe not.
people don't give a shit about that anymore. Maybe you could do something interesting with your menu,
They
not
want their
close down your
own.
business.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's it's important to keep up with the times, unfortunately, when it comes to the restaurant industry. But yeah. But my nervous touch loves a place where I can just sit and have all kinds of different meals and music and people, and it's just, ugh,
A nice
absolutely.
patio.
Yes.
Yeah, nothing beats a like margarita on a patio. Nothing.
No, I agree. And a watermelon jalapeno margarita. That's what it was, Dave.
Hell yeah.
So good. It was so good. Fuck yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm feeling a bit complete. Is there anything you would like to share? Something that's on your heart that you would like to tell everybody who's listening before we wrap up?
No.
No.
Let me see. No, that's not a. Yeah, I guess my right mind is not have anything for that.
It's not
No,
being told
I
for
don't. I got
anything.
nothing for you. That's it. I don't have anything to say to you guys, people out there. That's it.
The manifestor has spoken. Okay, Dave, of course, I will put all of your links in the show notes, Neutrino Radio on Instagram and YouTube and all the fun stuff. Now, I know that you don't have any like human design offerings or shit like that, but you do creative work. You've mentioned it a couple of times here. Are there any particular um what should I say, projects that you would be called to work on that people could contact you about?
Could try me. Try me. I if I don't um the like Instagram messages get pretty hard to sort through sometimes, and if you don't respond to them once, somebody can't send you another message until you accept their. You don't always know if that. So if you really want to get in touch with me, you could email me at neutrinoradio@gmail.com.
Perfect.
Otherwise, you just hit me up somewhere. If you, I don't know, I'm not a professional. I don't do sessions. I don't do readings. I have some video editing skills, and that's how I've been making money lately. And maybe if you got something for me to work on, maybe I'll want to do it. But mostly, I'm just like a guy who exists and talks about human design every day with his friends and stuff.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, Dave, thank you so much for coming on. I had so much fun talking to you, like always. I think it's just always so much fun to hear what you have to say. So I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. It was very fun. I was so grumpy when we first got on. I'm
Are you
glad
still
we like
grumpy?
took like no. By the time we started recording, I was fine.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, this is great. Thanks for ungrumping me.